Right.
And that's going to be his letter. We could settle this. We could, if you wanna settle this, we could come to an agreement. If not, gotta do what we gotta do.
So, I mean, I got to run here for a second, Paul, because I got a webinar. But I mean, I want to obviously, I didn't I didn't realize you're gonna tell me some of this stuff, which is great news in a way. But I guess obviously you have some decisions to make as a result of this now, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you can still come out way ahead in this. Both, if you want to go back and work, you can do that, but protect yourself in terms of us what you've got, you keep, and if anything happens. If anything happens and they close, they've given it to you in writing that you will get X at that time, kind of thing, right?
But as well, if I go back, I mean, I was even thinking about this. I discussed it with some other, people. I might go back.
Sorry, Frank. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can.
Oh, no, I can. Yeah, I was having trouble signing in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was having trouble signing in. I had to go through a download. Usually I can just click the button and boom, it launches it. Now, I don't know if it's because of this new thing they're doing with changing it over to 5.0.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and by May 30th, we have to, you have to upgrade your system to go to 5.0. It's got new security protocols built in, is what it is. So it's actually better for everyone. Very quickly, while I have you, before I bring anybody else in here, any thought to who else we could use as a host? So I don't have to. Yeah, well, I don't want to keep recycling. I mean, it's a lot to ask you, Pappy Robinson, to keep doing it. Quattro doesn't want to do it. So next week we got Talarico. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know who would like to do that one. Only because the week after is JT McGuire in outfield. So I was going to ask Pappy for that. And the week after, I was going to do 2. Scott gave me the idea of doing 4. I'm going to bring 4 pitching guys on. Fred Corral, Dave Serrano, Sean Cole. I can't remember the 4th. Anyway, 3 of them have already said yes, they'll do it. And the idea was we'll kind of tell them, here's what we want to talk about, and maybe even give them each an area to talk about, and then kind of open it up to questions off of that. So do like a more of a panel thing. So
That's cool.
Yeah. So, but again, knowing that I don't want to keep saying to the same people, and because again, it's work. You have to get ready for it. Just you don't have to give me an answer now. Give some thought to who else might be a person that we could utilize as a host.
Okay.
Someone who's you got to be able to think. You got to ask the right questions. You got to go with the flow. You got to be
Right.
comfortable in front of a camera and all of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to wait till Sheets comes in before I let anybody else in here.
Sure, no problem. It shows there's a bunch of attendees.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people there waiting to come in.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm not, see what I'm doing is I elevate them to panelists just so they get a different view.
Got it.
Okay. Otherwise they're just attendees and they see it. Okay.
Right.
What happens is they see it more in a smaller box. Oh, there's Sheets.
Audio.
Hey, Jeremy.
I'm here.
Oh,
Hello.
you got the garb on.
Oh yeah. I'm always got the garb. Got to.
Do you need to share anything on your screen? Anything you want to test? Anything?
I think I'm good. I think we're just gonna roll. We're just gonna have a
Okay.
little combo.
Cool.
Yeah. How are you
Alright.
guys doing?
Good.
Awesome. Awesome. Been a busy day, man. I'm glad to kind of sit down and just talk for a little bit, man.
Were there any more player interviews today?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
We had five today, and then
Okay.
none that were rough. So that was good. We got, I think, 3 rough ones tomorrow.
Gotcha.
Comes and goes, man. It's
Yeah.
part of it.
How do you prepare yourself mentally in dealing with the rough ones?
It's a great question, Frank. Like I have, and I mean this. This is like, again, this is like my studio, it's my office downstairs, and I've got all the studio stuff. This is like I'm up till 1 or 2 in the morning, and I practice those talks because anytime, as you guys probably know, with conflict, it's about being efficient with your words. It's about being direct, and it's not about elaboration.
Right.
So I've had to kind of work through it because I think we elaborate so that we can like try to soften the blow.
Yeah.
And man, I've kind of practiced each speech, but what's funny is we got to that first one on Monday, and all that training went out the window.
That's what was it? Everybody has a good plan until they get punched in the face.
That's a fact. That's 100%. 100%. Yeah.
One of the best pieces of advice I got in a negotiation was you need to be comfortable with silence.
100%.
And that's what I find has been the biggest difference in when I speak to people and where I'm trying to make a point is if I'm comfortable with the point, then that's it. The point's done. If there's something you like to add, go ahead, but I'm good with silence and let's move on if not.
That's it.
That's been the biggest thing.
Well, it's the same thing when you do public speaking is use silence to almost amplify your point.
Yeah.
Because we as talkers, we just keep going. Well, sometimes you got to deliver that point, let it breathe for a minute.
I'm going to excuse myself for 1 second. My 3 idiot sons are playing ping pong downstairs. And they are yelling. So just give me a second.
What's funny, you talk about silence. There's a guy named Tom Peters. He's written he was a whole Harvard business strategy prof and things like that.
Okay.
And one of his key things that he did when Tom Peters gave speeches was he'd make a point and then he'd stop.
Yeah.
And the silence was A, to emphasize the point, B, was to catch his breath, but it was also to make sure that everybody understood he was trying to emphasize something. In negotiation, silence is golden.
Absolutely.
Right? Most people tend to talk too much in negotiation.
Yeah.
Right?
Have you guys read Never Split the Difference?
No.
You need to look that up. It's
Good.
Chris. Starts with a V. Chris Voss, Voss. Never Split the Difference. So he was an FBI negotiator, and I'm telling you, we bought 2 cars using his method. It's good. I mean, it really is. So when I was going out doing a bunch of speaking engagements, I had this corporate gig that they reached out. They're like, "Hey, we want you to come speak. This is awesome." And so I ended up the guy who interviewed him, who I heard it on and connected me, and the first time I ever heard of Chris Voss, I gave him this whole story. So they reach out and they say, "Hey, we'd like for you to come speak to our group." And I'm like, "Man, I'd love to. I'd love the opportunity to do that." He's like, "Okay, great, man. Just let us know what your fees are." And I, at the time, was at ABCA, and I was doing some stuff, and I knew what I wanted to get paid, but I didn't know what you were willing to pay.
Right.
So I went right back to that episode. I literally listened to it real quick again. I'm like, okay. So I replied back and I go, honestly, I don't want to offend you guys. I value this friendship, and I wouldn't want to put out a figure that might damage our relationship. Why don't you let me know what your budget is, and I'll try to figure out if I can work within what you have to spend on this particular event. And long story short, and I'm not saying this to brag, long story short, I got $8,000 to go speak for 1 hour. It was
That's
awesome.
the best hourly rate.
I would have said like, just pay for my flight and take me out to dinner and I'm good. But literally he was like, well, we have 10,000. I'm like, you know what? I'll do it for 8. And if you cover my travel, and I got $8,000. True story.
Good
My
for
wife
you.
was so proud of me.
That's awesome.
True
They always
I know you've
go to the first number.
Yeah, exactly. Never put out the first number.
That's right. That's right. If you do, make it
Jeez, I know-
ridiculous.
I know you've got
Yeah.
2 kids. How old are your kids?
Cooper, my firstborn, is 4 years old, and he is a wild man. And then our daughter, Charlie Jolene, we call her CJ. CJ is a year and a half,
Sweet.
and she is she is a terror. She is literally into everything. Bless her heart.
Well, it was funny when I remember actually Zach and I, my middle one, we were just watching a comedy while we were waiting to come on board here called Working Moms. It's a Canadian sitcom that's on Netflix. And I'm watching it and I could see what the moms are going through. And I'm like, I got to get my wife to watch this because she would totally relate. Because I remember I would get home and she'd want to talk. I'm like, I don't want to talk. I had such a busy day. And she's like, are you kidding? I've just been with 2 little snots all day. I need to speak to an adult.
Yeah. The way my wife is when I get home. It's like, I really could enjoy an adult conversation right now. Yeah. What do you got?
And what stuff is you do it for a living, so to speak.
No doubt.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, man.
What's going on? So what's going on in the state of Georgia with respect to things opening up?
We're pretty progressive. We've been progressive. Our governor has. So we're basically full tilt. Like,
Oh, really?
oh yeah. I mean, we're rolling. Couple of restrictions, but restaurants are wide open. There's a few businesses that they haven't fully opened up yet, but we're pretty much there. Back and going.
And
We're not
youth
California.
sports? Right. Have youth sports started up again?
What date? They have a date. I think it's June 15th. I think for us is we'll be back
okay.
June 15th. Yeah.
Wow.
We'll be back and rolling. Yeah.
Well,
Why
why
the gap?
Sorry, go ahead.
Why the gap if they've opened up, which I knew they'd opened up a lot. Why the gap between now and a month and a half for now for youth sports?
I think it's just preparation just to get, because there's modifications that are going to happen. And that's, as we probably all know, I mean, I'm not super into it, or honestly, I haven't watched the news in 8 weeks. So I don't know if that is like a trial. I don't know if, like, again, there's probably gonna be certain restrictions and stuff, but like we haven't even got the full thumbs up that we're starting classes back in the fall. Like, I think our university system, we're going to try to do that because that's ideal, but no one said that we can do that yet. I'm not even back at the office yet.
Wow.
I haven't been in the office in 8 weeks.
Plus maybe the gap also, if there is a resurgence and they have to shut things down, they haven't already started up. Okay, I'm going to start. We're going to get going in a couple of minutes here. So we're going to let everybody in, start letting people in.
Love it.
Well, we've received one question in the Q&A. One of our longtime Ontario coaches wants to know what Sheets has in the cup.
The magic cup. So my magic cup's up there. It had coffee earlier. I'm gonna show you guys. This is old school Kentucky. This is a ball jar. I don't know if you guys do that. Real rednecks where I'm from, we drink out of ball jars. So you could make this a nice cup of water, or you could put some flowers in it. It's all the same thing.
Perfect. I use jam jars.
There you go. There you go. That's funny.
When are you next on with another webinar? next week?
Thursday, man.
Tomorrow, yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Two on Monday and one on Thursday every week. Nonstop. Never ends.
How do you feel at the end of the night on a Monday when you do a doubleheader?
Holy smokes, man. Like, so like, man, it's unbelievable. Like, so you go, like on a like tomorrow night, Thursday night, we go from 9 o'clock until 10:30. I shut it down at 10:30. Literally, we're in good company here. I literally walk out of the studio. I walk right across the hall to the fridge. I grab a Bud Light and I come back to my chair. I start processing the show because you got to convert it, and then once it's converted, I got to upload it, and then they run with it. And so while that's going on, I start answering social media. Well, I got to answer social media from my account and the Stick and Ball account. And depending on how many people are on, how many people tweeted, like, I mean, the first few nights when we were rolling at like 1,000 people on the call, I was literally ending the call at 10:30, but I wasn't going to bed until 1:30. Like, that's how much social media was going on.
Yeah.
It's a little bit better now, but on Monday with the 2 calls, I don't have time between the 7 and the 9 to do social media. So it's like, I mean, yeah, I hang up and I'm like, here we go. Start replying, retweeting. Yeah. It's wild. That's part of it. You know, it's a good thing.
Okay, let's get going.
Cool.
Good evening, coaches, and welcome to the Baseball Ontario Around the Horn webinar. My name is Dirk Drieberg, and on behalf of Baseball Ontario, welcome to our weekly webinar tonight featuring our guest, head coach of Georgia Gwinnett College, Jeremy Sheetinger. Just a reminder, next week we have Matt Tallarico to talk about base running. The week after, we have JT McGuire to talk about outfielding. And the week after, on June the 3rd, we have a special surprise for you with a panel of 4 coaches to talk about pitching. So stay tuned for greater details on that. So let's get going with it tonight. Your host tonight is Frank Fascia. Those of you who are from Ontario know Frank well. And again, welcome to all the coaches from around Ontario, across Canada, from East Coast to West Coast, as well as all the high school, collegiate, travel, and minor pro coaches with us from across the United States. Frank, our host tonight, was a 4-year player at a D1. We won't talk about that because he doesn't talk much about it. But all kidding aside, he had a great career as a player, and now has invested all his time into developing baseball here in Ontario and across Canada. He serves as the president of Brampton Minor Baseball. He's a member of the Board of Management of Baseball Ontario, as well as the general manager of our Ontario youth team. As well, he still coaches a 17U team and helps out with all the other teams in his organization. So, Frank, welcome as the host, and a very warm Ontario welcome to a person. If you have never heard this gentleman before, you're in for a treat, folks. To all the baseball and softball coaches with us tonight, Jeremy Sheetinger is one of a kind. He's into his second year as the head coach at Georgia Gwinnett College. Prior to that, he was 4 years as college DCA. He has served as an associate scout for the Atlanta Braves since 2015. Prior to that, he was 3 years as head coach at Spalding University in Kentucky, and he has also served as the director of baseball ops at the University of Kentucky. So welcome, Coach Sheetinger. Over to you guys. Take it away.
Thanks, Dirk. Much appreciated. First thing I'm going to say is just about everybody who's heard Coach talk refers to him as Sheets, and I just can't do it. I'm an old-fashioned guy in that way. And if you're a coach, I refer to you as coach, and I hope you'll understand that, coach. So
Sure.
First, I'll start by saying welcome. It is a privilege to be on the other side of the screen from you. I had the pleasure of hearing you at the ABCA this year, and then again at the Best Ever here in Toronto. And the term baseball evangelist is well used in your presence. And if we both end up crying tonight, then we'll understand why. It's because at some point we connected. So that's a cool thing. There's nothing wrong with that. So I guess one question we ask many of our guests when we start this is, so given the COVID-19 environment that we're in right now, what have you been doing other than the stick and ball TV stuff that we see on Mondays and Thursdays? But tell us about what's going on at school.
So, yeah, this has been, as we all know, unprecedented times. I'll start this off with some real transparency. You ready? I have not managed this break very well. And I wasn't prepared for it. My mind, I'm a pretty one-track mind kind of person. So I was in coach mode. And when everything happened, I went to classic avoidance. And probably for my own good sake, because when you're talking about a team that at the time we were 23-2, we were on a 22-game winning streak, I didn't want to acknowledge that was over. And so I literally went right to work and started trying to revamp our roster, got into recruiting, spent a lot of time making calls and opening up doors and again, trying to find players to recruit and figure out who's leaving their schools and all that good stuff. But then we took the stick and ball stuff to a brand new level and really advanced that. Frank, I'll be honest with you, man. I'm up at 7:30, 8 o'clock with my kids. I hang out with them most all mornings. They go down about 1 o'clock. And from about 1 to 5, I come down to the studio and get my work in and make sure I'm, getting ahead on all the various things I got to work on. And throughout the night, I have various calls like this one that, I'm willing to, walk away from the family for a little bit because, we're going to go help coaches and share. And, but a lot of up and down the stairs. But when I can, I'm up there with my family. I'll tell you guys, and most of you probably have the same experience. About 2 weeks into the quarantine, we're sitting at breakfast. And my kids are running around. Coop's done eating, and Sissy's wrapping up. So we get her out of her high chair, and she's running around. And we're sitting there. My wife, we're talking. We're going back and forth. And she goes, and sat back in her chair. I'm like, what do you got? She goes, I never expected to eat breakfast with you in the month of March. And I was like, that's an interesting way of looking at it. I was like, okay, yeah. I said, I think we've got it for the next few months. I think you're going to have a lot of breakfast with me. But yeah, so we're getting accustomed to it. But, I think, and I don't want to say this and jinx this, but I will say this as coaches, I think the reality is that this could happen again. So, hey, we go back and we roll for a year, we roll for 3 years, we roll for 10 years, but this could happen again. And I will say that the next time that it is, I'll be much better prepared and I'll be more efficient for sure.
No, that's interesting because one of the unintended benefits of going through this environment right now is learning how, one, being a family again, because, even from my own experience, where I have 3 boys, 2 live with us, 1 is away at school. And for the first time in 4 years, we're a family in springtime. I mean, that almost never happened. So that's been a really interesting unintended benefit. And then these online meetings, this has been incredible because we have found that there are other ways for us to learn and engage and get better at what we do. And so sometimes when things are dark all around us, there is a silver lining. So that's been really interesting so far. When we prep for this talk today, one of the things you mentioned was some of the meetings you're having with players right now. So and one of the things you said was, Frank, I don't want to use the word culture. People are cultured out. But I'll say this.
Sure.
Tell us about the meetings you're having with players and the impact that's having on the program as a whole.
I would love to. So, and I appreciate you teeing it up that way. The short version to everybody on the call is that the situation we're in, we are a university system, school and program. We're not open enrollment. We're not, again, wide open in terms of we can have 50, 60 guys on our roster. Our roster number is preset relative to Title IX. And, you get your seniors back and you got your incoming class, and we're not a fully funded program. Well, hey, that's all the money you got. And by the way, we're going to have to reduce budgets because we're all taking a crunch on this one. So that's presented its own challenges, Frank. And I think the one place we landed is this, and I'm going to be this is going to sound coarse, but for those of you that aren't college coaches, it's going to sound coarse. But as a college coach, if we lose, I sell my house. So I looked at this as an opportunity to say, well, you know what? We get a chance to look at our roster a little with more of a real fine magnifying glass. As many of you know, that was my first year at GGC. I didn't recruit any of these players, and not that I didn't have their back or I didn't love them any different. I just didn't recruit them. So they maybe wouldn't have been players that I would have spotlighted at an event or through the recruiting process. And so, honestly, I looked at it and said, Frank, man, we got a chance to get better. And if we don't come out of this quarantine in a much more talented place, shame on me, because that means I didn't work. And so back to your question, with that comes tough decisions. And if you were on earlier, we were talking about, anytime you have to embrace an uncomfortable conversation, there's a few ways to go about it. I think where I land my ship on those things is I'm just going to continue to be myself. And I've got a big heart, and I wear it sometimes on my sleeve, but I try to be extremely authentic. And so short version is this. When you've got to call an 18 to 22-year-old kid who honestly, and again, I'm wearing our colors, they take a lot of pride in wearing this G-Claw. And that's what we build in our program is that pride. But when you tell them, when they probably don't see it coming that, hey, we're probably going to need to go a different direction, that's really tough. It's tough for me. It's tough for them. More often than not, they're blindsided by it. And so you got to navigate that. I'm going to say this, Frank, this goes back to your culture conversation. I'll come back for that for a minute. I'll tell you how much I think our culture showed up in these meetings. We had 3 yesterday. Everybody's unmuted. Sweet. Got me. All right. So in the course of this, when we're telling these 3 guys, hey, we're going to have to move forward, and it's an unfortunate situation. We can't keep everybody. I think what it comes down to for me is I wanted to make sure they knew that I did have their back. Even in a moment where I'm giving them crappy news, I have your back, and here's how. I'm not kicking you to the curb. What I'm telling you is that we just don't have a spot for you here, but let me find a place for you to go play. And most college programs, I don't know how you guys do it up north, but it doesn't happen a lot down here in the States in terms of that coach offering that assistance. Well, that's the way I run my program, man. I care about these kids. They are my pseudo stepsons. And hey, what's best for you because you won't play here is to go somewhere else. So let me find you a place to play. I say that because we've built our environment here at GGC on the 2 words, trust and love. And because of that, and because we've worked hard to solidify those things, when that moment happened and I had to deliver that news, and I looked at all 3 of them and said, how does that hit home for you? Guys, all 3 players in almost verbatim said, Coach, I hate to hear that, but you know what? At the end of the day, we trust that you're doing what's right for the program. And if that doesn't include me in the mix, I completely understand. Please, if you can, help us find a place to go play. And we ended all 3 phone calls with, hey, man, at the end of the day, I still love you. And the player, Coach, I love you too. And I don't tell you that story to like brag that, hey, I got things figured out. But what I tell you is that for me solidified, hey, man, you're on the right path to building the environment you're looking to create here at Georgia Gwinnett College. Because even in your toughest moment, people think they have great culture when they're winning a bunch of games. And what we start to see is in those moments, like it can hide. And sometimes we take chinks in our armor or things that maybe aren't what we're truly looking for. Sometimes we tolerate some things that normally we wouldn't, and we kind of sweep them under the rug because we're winning ball games. Everybody's a leader when you're winning. It's real leadership that shows up when you're in the trenches, when you've lost 10 in a row, when you've cut a kid from your college baseball team. That's when your culture shows up. that's when the environment that you've created shows up. And I just say that to say that those 3 calls showed us that, man, in year 1, that culture got solidified probably a lot firmer than I'm giving myself credit for. But that only encourages me that I want to keep building upon that, because there's a whole nother place we want to go as we move forward. So, Frank, I hope that gets back to the crux of your question, my man.
100%. And it actually leads into my next question. When I heard you talk at the ABCA, you mentioned what type of coach you used to be.
Yeah.
And how you've evolved as a coach. Maybe you can give us a bit of background in terms of the transformation you went through, and maybe some of the things that led to that transformation.
Okay. So, yes, my first 11 years. So I just finished my 16th year, if you call that my 16th year. My first 11 years, I got into college coaching because I had great coaches throughout my career. I had a little league coach that changed my life. Took a chubby white kid that loved basketball, and he taught him how awesome baseball is. And from that point forward, baseball was my passion. I had great high school coaches, guys who challenged me, guys who helped me mature, who held me accountable, who helped kind of, again, just change where I was going in life and helped me into college baseball. I wanted to coach from the time I was 16 years old. I knew that's exactly what I wanted to do. And along the way, though, as you start to become who you are at 18 to 22, I was always kind of the center of attention. I don't mind being the funny guy at the party. I actually, in college, I hope there are no kids on the call, I tried to drink every beer in the town I went to college in, and I almost succeeded. But that's who I was, and that's the role I embrace. So, hey, every party, hey man, Sheets is here. Hey, as a baseball team, yeah, we got to play tomorrow, but hey, I'll take everybody out. Let's go get some drinks, and always trying to be in the center of everything. Well, that stirred up a reliance on ego and finding self-worth from that attention. Okay. Now I'm getting deep on you guys. You didn't sign up for this, but I'm getting deep on you.
We're good. We're good.
So I went into coaching with that. I went into coaching with, well, why are you going to coach? If I had to ask myself that at 23, why are you getting into coaching? Is to be the best baseball coach that's ever put on a uniform. I want to win 10 national championships. I want to win so many games that they take my body and they dip me into gold, and they put me on a statue, and they put me out in front of some stadium. I say that is exactly the thoughts that I had. I would lay at night and dream of moments where I could come to see my statue because I had just crushed it on the college baseball level. That's how out of control my ego was. Now, if you coach in that spirit, call it transactional versus transformational. When you coach, when it's about you, then every win and loss you equate your self-worth to. And so if you're winning, guys, you're the best, you're still the life of the party, and you're the funniest guy in the room, and you feel really confident about yourself. So my first year as a head coach, we go 33-12. It's the best record in school history. And I'm pretty good at this. Like, man, I got some. And so after a year, no, 100%, I was drinking my own syrup. That's for sure. And then you look at coming into year 2. Well, I mean, if I set the school record for wins, well, then in year 2, we should probably go compete for the national championship. That's the next step. And then when we weren't achieving those goals, guys, in my 3 years as a head coach, we went from 33 to 28 wins to 26 wins. Because I'm telling you, my players started to realize it had nothing to do with them. It had everything to do with me. So I needed to be the guy out in front of the team doing the interview. I needed to be the guy that had his name in the paper. I needed to be the guy that, hey, when I came in after a really successful weekend, if my AD didn't acknowledge it or acknowledge me in the meeting that, hey, you did a great job this weekend, I got really upset. Having to be seen, having to be on the top step and making sure everybody sees me directing and arguing with umpires, whatever it is, guys. I just think you become to a place where your players know the difference. They know what your motivations are. by the end of my 11th year, it was about, I need you guys to win so I can feel better about myself. And I finished that year, thank God. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so is that when you talk about that 11th year, is that what ended up taking you away from coaching for a while?
I think God presented an opportunity for me to leave coaching. That's what I think. I think that Chelsea and I had found out we were pregnant with Cooper, and I coached that 11th season, still hunting wins, but also going, man, if I got to do this next year with a newborn, I don't know how I'm going to do it. Because at that time, I truly believed I was either going to be a great father or a really bad coach, or a really great coach and a really bad father. I don't know if there was going to be any middle ground. I didn't know how to balance life and work. And the ABCA position was created, and I literally was pulled. You need to just interview for this, man, just see if it's for you. And I took the leap of faith. Now I've been wanting to do this all night. So I just want to let you guys, in prep for this phone call, I watched Strange Brew. Are there any Strange Brew fans on the call? You bunch of hosers, okay?
Yeah, guys,
one of my
hit up the chat.
all-time favorite movies. All right, so you were all on the same page there. How about Over the Top with Sylvester Stallone? Does anybody remember Over the Top, arm wrestling, the truck driver? Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm going to go over the top mode, all right? So I'm going to transition out of being transactional, and I'm going to transition to over the top. I'm going a different place. Now we're going to go to work.
All right.
So I took this job at ABCA, and it was about servant leadership. When you work for a coaches association, it ain't about you, and it never will be about you. It's about the coaches. It's about the game. It's about the community. And I had a chance to find out what that really felt like, to get fulfillment from serving other people, to provide a podcast that people, again, I get DMs every day. Dude, thank you for what you're doing. More importantly, dude, you've changed the way that I coach. That was the mission of the podcast. How can we change the heart of the coach? Not teach him how to double play better, but how can we change his heart? Because if his heart is changed and he's motivated by the right things, then he's going to go out and give that player a really special experience. If the player has a special experience, we created a better baseball fan who's more passionate, who knows the game in much more depth than they would with a coach that's coaching for wins and losses. If you do that, you're literally growing the game of baseball. You're expanding its reach. You're creating the next fan, the next little league coach, and obviously the residual effect of that is super positive. When I came back, Frank, it's all about my kids, man. Our players are my rock stars. I serve my players daily. I wake up, my feet at the floor. What can I do to serve my players? You guys know how this works with budgets, and I say this very quietly so my wife can't hear me. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. What I was going to say was, how did you decide to get back into coaching after you'd spent all that time with the ABCA?
I had a moment going out my last spring, and I went to 5 different championships in 15 days. And I was gone for 2 weeks from my family. And I haven't said a word to my wife about coaching. She was a college volleyball coach, and obviously I was a college baseball coach. And we both committed that we were never going to go back to coaching. And I go for this 5 championships in 15-day stretch. And I'm telling you, man, I'm watching those games a little bit differently. And I'm talking to coaches, and I'm going, man, I don't know. I could still got it a little bit. I could do this. And I got a phone call from a coach that was, at the time, he was a Division I assistant, and he was going to try to go get a really good Division I job that would have moved me across the country, and a no-brainer, like a Power 5 type job. And boy, it got real then, Frank. So I went back to my hotel room. I went and ate dinner, and the whole time I'm just like, oh my God, am I doing this? Is this going to happen? What if this happens? What if I'm back? And 2 days later, I go out to the NAI World Series, and the head coach at Georgia Gwinnett, good friend of mine, Brad Stromdahl, is now at Georgia State. They lose their last game, and he walks off the field with me, and I walk him out to the vans, and he turns to me and he says, "Hey man, I just want you to know, I think I'm going to go after the Georgia State job. If you ever want to be a head coach at Georgia Gwinnett, now is the time." So in 2 days, I had 2 job opportunities. And honestly, as much as I would love to go back to the Power Five, I coached 3 years in the SEC. I'd love to go back at that level. It's such a unique viewpoint of college baseball. Guys, I'm a small college guy at heart. To thy own self be true. And I'm a small college cat. And when he said it, I went, that's the job I want. What do I need to do to get that job? He says, we'll talk, and start putting your stuff together. When lo and behold, a couple months, about a month goes by, and I'm interviewing for the job. And I'm going to tell you guys, they didn't want to hire me because I was out of coaching. I wasn't like, you're hiring the dude that just won the national championship over here. Let's get him over to us. You're hiring the guy that's been on a 4-year sabbatical. So they didn't want to hire me. I had to win the phone interview, and then I had to dominate the on-campus interview. And guess what? I crushed both of them. And I gave them no choice but to hire me. And it's been obviously a perfect marriage ever since.
So now you decide to get back into coaching.
Yep.
As you said, before I interrupted you earlier, you talked about how it's all about the guys.
Yeah.
So how did you know what to do? How did you know what you wanted to accomplish as a head coach now after the experience of the first 11 years?
So yeah, that's a great question. I think when the opportunity to interview and all that was becoming a reality, Frank, I thought that I would have the toughest time getting my thoughts together on exactly how I would run the shop. And you talk about an act of God. When I sat down and I started putting together my interview book, my interview book is 40 pages. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. The thoughts and the ideas and the expectations and the steps to getting there just flowed off my tongue. Now, where does that come from, Frank? I think it comes from spending 4 years having conversations with the best of the best. So when I tell you guys that when I do these podcasts, I'm learning right along with you. I am learning right along with you. I'm listening with a coach's ear going, man, I like that. I would do it. I get where he's coming from on that. I would twist it this way, but I like that a lot. I took notes. I've got, I can't tell you how many notebooks, probably about 40 notebooks of notes. And all those things for me, that's how I remember things. I can't just read something and remember it. I got to write it down. And all those notes just put these thoughts in my head. I spent a lot of time with Tim Corbin, spent a lot of time with Eric Bakich, spent a lot of time with Ed Blankmeyer and John Casey and guys like that are just the cream of the crop. And I went, man, I'm going to learn from the best here. This is how you run a championship level, elite, upper echelon program. But you know what? That's who I am now. That actually makes sense for me. And I'm going to put my personality on it. So, Frank, and again, we were talking a minute ago, I serve our kids in this way. Our budget is our budget, but if our kids sweep a weekend, I buy them milkshakes out of my own pocket. Like, my wife hates it.
Understood.
But I serve my kids. And as much as I pay for lunch and dinner and food and groceries and diapers and everything for my kids, that's the least I can do for my other set of kids. And
it's a common theme is that a lot of us as coaches, we end up out of pocket because we want to do things for our kids and we don't want to go back to the parents and say, hey, I need more money for the budget. So you just do what you think is the right thing.
Yeah. And
so
you just, I mean, so like serve.
What I was going to say was, so when you got to school, how many of those kids on the roster were returning so that they were already used to dealing with another coach and now you're coming in there as the new guy? How did you address them? How did you get them to embrace what it was you're trying to do?
Oh, dude, I may have to stand up because I'm getting fired up doing this, man. So this is what I learned my first time as head coach. When you take over a program, I think because we look at it as 30 individuals, guys, when I got the head coaching job at Spalding, I had 30 individual conversations that were on a wide ranging dynamic of topics. Like what was relative to that kid? Well, coach, I mean, you know, I like to run bases. So what do you do with base running? You know, our base running plan, you know, we like to do this. We're going to be ultra aggressive. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Well, coach, I'm a pitcher. So what do you believe on the pitching side of things? You know, from the pitching side of things, I really think this, and this. I had 30 different conversations. So guess what? In the time between those phone calls, the recruiting summer, and our first team meeting, well, they've been talking the whole time, and everything I said is misconstrued. So as the kids are walking in, they're like, hey, coach, I know you were talking to Derek about your base running plan. I mean, we're just going to like run all over the place and like run into outs. And I'm like, I never said that. That's not what I said. So I remembered that. And when I got the job, Frank, I think that to that point and then taking another step back is, what would I want to hear? If I were in their shoes, and I always try to talk about fighting for empathy, even though you don't really truly know where people are at, you got to fight for empathy. You got to fight to see it from the way that they see it. And that helps you communicate it much better, I believe. So what would they want to hear? And I remember when I signed at the University of Charleston, Frank, I signed for 2 assistant coaches that recruited me, and they loved me, and I was going to be the starting first baseman, and they loved me to death. They called me all the time. It was like, I mean, I felt loved. 2 weeks before classes started, they both got new jobs, and they hired 2 new assistant coaches. And one of them was the senior first baseman's brother.
That didn't work out so well.
Don't you think I would have liked a phone call? Like, I've been there, man. When you were planning to play for somebody and it gets flipped on its head, what would I need to hear? What would I want to hear? And I prayed about it, and I thought about it, and I drilled it down, Frank, to very simple terms. And I had, to answer your question, 18 returners and 17 new players.
Okay.
And I felt like the returners and the new players need to hear the exact same message. And, dude, I could have recorded it, and I could have played it over and over. My wife said, you sound like a tape recorder. I go, but I'm doing this on purpose because the messaging has to be the same so that we're on the same page. I literally answer the phone. Hey, Frank, it's Coach Sheets, your new head coach over at Georgia Gwinnett. Man, how's everything going? Good, good. What you been into? This, and this. Great, man. Hey, I don't want to take too much of your time, but one thing I do want to tell you is this. This is very important, and I want you to hear this right from me from day one, man. I didn't recruit you. I can't pick you out of a crowd. I haven't even looked at the website to see what your picture looks like. I don't know if you're black, white, Puerto Rican. Can't tell you. Doesn't matter to me. You're my guy. Because you're wearing grizzly green, you're my guy. And what that means is I'm going to meet you halfway. So I don't care what happened in the past. I don't care where you're coming from. If you got 1 at bat last year or if you threw 100 innings, it doesn't matter to me. I'm going to meet you halfway. And all I'm asking is, man, I'm going to do things a little bit differently, but you'll always know I have your back. You meet me the other half. And I'll look forward to seeing you here in a month. End of phone call. 35 times I had that same phone call. And what I'm going to tell you is that first team meeting, we were already like this. And at the end of the year, it was the most close-knit team I've ever coached in my life. If a fight would have broke out, we'd have won every bar fight in the state of Georgia. I promise you. But I think
awesome.
Dude, I'm telling you, it started from those phone calls that I sat there with my wife. We spent 5 hours on the phone. She would look up the number. She would type it in my phone, hand me the phone, and I would call each guy. We did that for 5 hours, and that is the same message. So I think that's incredibly important. Get people on the same page with the same language. That's how you rally the group.
So that's we were joking earlier before we actually got out and started talking that everybody has a great plan, but then the truth comes out when you get punched in the face. So
Yeah.
Now you've got an idea of what you want to do. You've talked to the kids. You get to campus. They report to school. Take us through how you got them on the same page.
So one of the things we talked about is trust and love. Those, as I mentioned earlier, those are the 2 things. So I went, how can we as a group develop trust and love? Well, and I still do this, man. I don't end a phone call. I don't end a text message. I don't end a bro hug. I don't end a team meeting. I don't end a huddle in a game without telling my guys that I love them. I never miss an opportunity to tell them that I love them. And I didn't want that to come off as generic. I needed them to understand that I'm not just saying it, like I really mean it. And, you know, first team meeting, I bought them dinner. You know, I made sure that they knew that I was taking a vested interest in them as individuals. So we had individual meetings to start the entire year. I would spend time with them down, you know, around the facility and put my arm around them. I was accessible. I made sure I was around. And I just kept saying it over and over again. And I just kept talking, hey, man, that's awesome, dude. I love you. And I'm telling you, these are guys I just met. And they're like, who is this chubby white kid? Like, what do you mean you love me? You don't know me. Well, I do. I love it. I'm meeting you at the halfway point. The halfway point is, dude, I already love you. You're my guy. I already do love you. And I know that if I keep being myself and I keep putting that forward, eventually you're going to meet me there. And they started to, which is great. Frank, I think you start to build it around trust. Part of some of their feedback was that maybe they didn't quite trust some of the previous staff. Well, I knew too much to be dangerous. I already knew that. And I knew who I am. I knew the way that I was going to lead. So I think a lot of the places that maybe the previous staff fell short, I felt like I walked in and maybe assumed those voids. And how do you build trust? Well, number one, you build it with consistency. Like, you better be the same dude every day. So I'm an energy bug, man. And sometimes I rub people the wrong way. We started with, 120. We're going to be down to 95 here in a minute because that energy ain't going away. And for some people, you can't buy into it. And you know what? I'm a pretty cool dude. So you must be something wrong with you. I ain't changing. I'm consistent. I'm going to be the same dude every day. And that's just in for everybody. But if you're going to play in this team, you better get used to it. That's who I am. And showing them that I'm not going to be riding high one day and then come in down in the dumps. So on my worst day, Frank, I had to get myself back to center. On my worst day, that I'm going to be this guy every day, consistent. I was laughing with a player yesterday, and by the way, it wasn't one of the tough phone calls that we had, but it was a definite tough phone call because we had some things to hash out. One of the first instances I had with him, I introduced for them the first time the Jaeger bands. Alan Jaeger's one of my best friends, and we do the Jaeger program. And not just the pitching staff, the position players too. And we're doing the Jaeger program, and I teach it to them. And we spent a whole week teaching them every movement, all 11 exercises. And by the way, you don't throw a baseball until you do your J bands. And I remember Nick is the player. We get done with it, and they throw, and he's like, Coach, my arm feels great. And I said, man, I'm telling you, that's the benefit of doing this. Like, and it's going to continue to be better for you. And he literally turns his back, and he starts walking away, and he goes, I just hope we keep doing it.
Interesting comment.
And I said, hey, Nick, what's up? And he said, oh, I just said, I hope we keep doing it because, you know, in the past we would do it for 2 weeks and then it would just kind of fade away. And I said, that's funny. Come here. And I had like 3 or 4 players around him and I wanted them to hear it too. And I said, come here. And I brought this whole group up on me. And this is like August, 14 days in, like, and I said, hey, come here. I said, have I given you any indication that anything I've told you, I'm just saying, and that I'm not going to follow through with? Have I given you that indication yet? He goes, no, man, you've been on the spot, man. You've done everything you've told us. And I went, so how about until I become inconsistent or until I lie to you and show you that I'm just words and I'm not about talking it or not about walking it? How about you don't put me in that box? Because that's very unfair for you to judge me and think that I'm going to walk away from what I told you is an important piece of this program and our player development model. And I'm talking about if you want to watch a 21-year-old that wanted to crawl away from a conversation and he stopped and he goes, Coach, I've never felt more low in my life. I'm so sorry I did that to you. And I said, hey, live and learn, man. But judge me on who I am every day. And until I show you that I'm not that person, when I tell you that it's what we're going to do and it's important to us, we'll be doing this for the rest of my career here. And we laughed about that the other day.
Well, what's interesting is he also provided an opportunity for, us as a coach to learn something that somebody might be thinking that otherwise may not have said anything and just walked away.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
How did you know? Because I mean, you took a leap of faith about this is how I want to do things. This is who I want to be.
Yep.
how did you know if it was working, if things were going like you thought they should be going? What are the, I mean, it might be a crass way of saying it, but like, what were the checkpoints you were looking for?
So it's a great question. I went into this saying, Frank, I know where I'm trying to take this program. And I know that people resist change. And I can't come into a program, and I'm going to lay this out, and this is not a recruiting speech, this is reality. 7-year-old program that's already been to 3 World Series. Like, finished 4th the last 2 years in back-to-back World Series. They've averaged 47 wins per year. They've put 21 kids in a Pro Bowl. Like, I mean, this I'm taking over a program that the only rung on the ladder is to win the national championship. That's the only thing left to do. If I come out this year and we win 47 games, yeah, that's what we do here. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll come home and fist pump. 47, are you kidding me? But, like, that's the next step. So I knew that I can't come in and tell them everything they've been doing is wrong. I needed to learn, like, well, why did you guys do that? And did you like it? And did it, it did work. And hey, here's some things. I'm just looking at the numbers. It says this. So, Frank, I honestly went into it and said, you know what, in 3 years, I want the program to look like this. Well, then I've got to get past, and I'm a very impatient person. Like, that's my bugaboo. I pray for it every day, and God gives me things to be patient about. And I want us to be here, but that's going to take 3 years. We're going to have to get here in year 2. But we're going to have to start right here in year 1. And so I'm not going to change a lot, but I'm going to change things incrementally. And then more than that, Frank, I'm going to empower our players to be part of that change. And so that comes from communication. So we have a classroom session every single day. We meet in a classroom before we ever go down, and then meditate, and then stretch, and then play catch, and obviously train. And that classroom session is the best thing I think I've ever done as a coach, and I will continue to do it every day of my coaching career. That allowed them to get to know me and allowed me to teach them lessons. Let me teach you about leadership. Let me teach you about body language. Let me help you understand what it means to be selfless. Hey, let's bring in a guest speaker and have him talk about accountability. Hey, why don't one of our assistants, why don't you stand up and tell them your story and where you come from? So that way, when you're out there doing pitching lessons with them and you're working with them in the bullpen, they realize that, man, you've got a 1-year-old at home, but you're sacrificing time away from your 1-year-old to be here with them. So we humanized ourselves across every front. They saw me at my best. They saw me at my worst. We do an exercise called hero, highlight, hardship. And it's one of the coolest things we do. A player referenced it today in our meeting. You talk about drilling down who you are. Dude, who's your hero in life? What's the highlight that you always point to? And what's the hardship you've been through? When you hear about kids that have had parents who had cancer, they've been bankrupt, their father passed away, their mom passed away, their entire family was living literally out of a hotel room. When you hear all these things, they all start to go, well, that's not really my story, but man, you've been through a lot, dude. I got your back. So we spent literally every week, Frank, doing that exercise. We tried to do anything and everything we could to help them understand that as individuals, we all play a role in where the team goes. And so one of the big points in our environment is that we recognize what baseball is. Baseball is an individual game that has individual competitive moments that's wrapped up in a team setting. So you can't come at it trying to build a team. You better get your individuals in a row. One by one. Get them straight. Spend time with each kid. Get him right. Get to the next kid. Get him right. Get to the next kid. Get him in order. And then you can start to build a team. We talked about team. We talked about togetherness. We talked about that moment. One of my players said, he goes, Coach, you always brought it back to us. It's not me as the coach. It's not us as the coaches versus the players. This is about we. So your framing of things and your language that you choose is increasingly important, in my opinion, because if you use I, if you use my, if you use me, those are things that push people away. When you say we, when you say us, when you bring everything back to the collective unit, it's pretty powerful. And so we did that through the classroom. We did that through training. Every conversation, Frank, was just back to, we're coming together. We're building a machine. Everything's coming in this way. You start to notice your team huddles, they look a little fragmented, and you just keep going. Come on, keep coming in. Hey, we're doing this at the beginning of practice because we all still smell good, right? All right, keep bringing it in. Let's go. Because you just want to keep almost putting metaphors out that help them understand that, man, we're going to do this together. So anyway, that's kind of the route we took.
I like that. Now, did you formalize, like you spoke about where you want to be in 3 years? Did you formalize what that looks like? And by formalize, I mean, and it's funny, in notes that I sent you, I used this phrase.
Yeah.
So you had a vision of what you wanted, where you want to be in 3 years. By formalizing, did you write it down? Like, what happens if you get hit by a bus tomorrow? Ugly thought. But
Yep.
what happens if you get hit by a bus tomorrow and somebody's got to pick up the pieces?
It won't be their culture. You can't, I mean, again, I retire tomorrow. Somebody else is going to take it a different direction.
Got it.
So no, I don't have it. I have it formalized right here. And I know that's scary, but I do. I know exactly what it's going to look like. I know what it's going to smell like. I know what it's going to sound like. I know what the kids are going to look, what they're going to say. I know what I'm going to say. I know how it's going to feel. But no, Frank, if you take the job tomorrow, you're going to run it the way that Frank Fascio wants to run it. And it's not going to be my vision anymore.
Fair comment.
So, I mean, I think I'll tell you this, my assistant coaches don't know where it's going yet.
Got it. So can you share with us some visions that you have of where you want to be 3 years from now?
Yep. So I think where, maybe that's coming back to this cultural conversation. So let me interrupt for a second. Sure.
One of the reasons I asked the question is that, the people who are listening and watching right now, we have a wide variety. You've got year-old coaches, you've got college coaches on the line, so it's a huge spectrum, right? And we talked about in the first 11 years and being ego-driven, we deal with it every day. For guys, winning and gals, winning makes you feel good. And so what's the balance between achieving a win versus, winning over a human being? And I know that sounds really philosophical, but that's where I'd like to know, from your vision, what is it that you're trying to achieve when you'll look back 3 years from now and say, yeah, this is where I want to be. And I know we're not done.
Now that I have chills on my arms, you ready? In 3 years, we want to arrive at a place where every single player that's a part of our program, they have, because of the environment we've created for them and one that they've learned to thrive in, they ultimately find the courage to go attack life, and life wants to beat them down, and life has fear in it, and life has doubt waiting for them. It has adversity. But can we help them have enough courage to go attack life and ultimately act on their own thoughts and ideas?
Makes a lot of sense.
I mean, if that's not what we're trying to do for them as people, then I don't think we should be coaching. And so if you heard that and you went, the heck is this guy talking about? Then homeboy, you got work to do. And that's not me judging you. That's just me shooting you straight as your Uncle Sheets. If you think that winning the provincial championship is going to solve every problem that you have and they have, it ain't. As much as I know that if we win a national championship at GGC, will we all get paid? For sure. I'll get a bump. My assistants get a bump. I sign a long-term contract. Our program elevates to this level. We're forever in the record books. I know that for my players, that if they win a national championship, we all know that the world treats winners and losers differently. So if they have that on their resume, if they go into that job interview with that championship ring, they're going to be leading a group somewhere, ultimately, hopefully running their own business. but that's not what we're trying to get done ultimately. Ultimately, it's about them being 39 years old and acting on their own thoughts and ideas. And what I mean by that is when I'm in my first year at GGC and they've had 7 years of the same coach and they all knew the system. When I say all of them, I'm talking about the players, the administrators, the support staff, the janitor, the electrician. They knew how that program worked. They don't know how I work. And when they want to come up and go, hey, I know you notice you guys run the bases pretty aggressively. I mean, is that, I don't know, man. I might get some outs. Man, you guys bunt a lot. There's a lot of drag bunts. That's kind of a, we don't really do that here on the East Coast. Have the courage to attack life and act on your own thoughts and ideas. I don't care what my AD thinks about who I am as a baseball coach. And he doesn't like it when I say that out loud. But I don't care because you hired me. And I'm going to do it my way. And it's either going to go down on a blaze of glory or we're going to win a national championship and we're going to get these kids ready for life. But I'm going to do it on my own thoughts and ideas. I'm going to listen and I'm going to accept mentorship and I'm going to seek advice. I don't want you guys to not hear that. I'm going to have conversations. I'm going to challenge myself daily. I'm going to morph. Our environment is going to shift over time because I'm going to think about new ways to make it better and challenge my guys, and I'm going to get better. But ultimately, it's going to come down to the decision that I make. That's what I want for our players. I want them at 23 to have a degree in their hand and go, I want to go do this with my life. That is way beyond double play turns, guys. And so, Frank, again, I'm getting jazzed up, but here's the piece of that is where we're going with that. What's that look like? What's that feel like? All those things. We've defined it. So for us, we're trying to control the narrative of who we are as a baseball team. And for us, it's literally 4 simple words. We're the Grizzlies. So GRIZ, we're going to be gritty. We're going to be relentless. We're going to be invested, and we're going to have zeal. And what those mean are for grit, when we play you, you're sore when the game's over. You are in the other dugout because we have a passionate persistence towards a goal, whether that's getting to second base, whether that's getting on base, whether that's being strike throwers on the mound. That grit shows up. And by the way, it's tangible. When you get off your bus, you can taste it in the air. Oh, man, we're in Lawrenceville. That relentless approach to me is the approach we definitely want for them in life. Because, by the way, when they get punched, Frank, they got to be relentless. Punch me again because I'm stronger than you think I am. But it's the way we approach the game. We're up 8-0. 8-0 ain't good enough because you know why? You have an at-bat. And I want you to get better in this at-bat. If you get better in this at-bat in an 8-0 game, that's a relentless approach. Just when they think you don't have enough outs, we have an approach that continues to grow us towards we're trying to figure out how good we can be. That's relentlessness. Invested, I think that shows up. I think when you watch us train, you watch our guys go literally as hard as they can, man, that team is investing in their future success. Well, isn't that what we're trying to do here in our program? Help them understand what a work ethic really means, help solidify their character, try to help them understand who they're going to be, not only as a player and a teammate, but who you're going to be as a father one day. We're figuring that out right now. We're investing in future success on a daily basis. And zeal is unbridled energy. I want a group, just like, again, I try to live my life, man. Like it, love it, hate it, get off the chat. There's already been 8 people that have gotten off the chat since we started. Sweet. Good luck going 15-15 this year, homeboy. We are going to attack things with energy. Zeal is present. Zeal is part of who we are. And again, you will either be waking up every day fired up with enthusiasm, or one day you will be fired with it. Better figure out what zeal is. Those things matter to us, man. So I want a team in 3 years, Frank, that has those elements that are just tangible. They're just out there and you feel them when you get off your bus.
Love it. Can you give us some examples of some of the things you guys do as a team that helps helps them get to that grizz in terms of being able to capture what it is you're getting them to capture?
Yep. So helping them, I think, on a few fronts. Helping them, number one, recognize that time matters. And this is like for every 14-year-old, it's the same lesson. For the 18-year-old, for me, it's the same lesson at 39. We got to help with time management. And it's the one commodity that it's always depleting for us. And we've got to help them realize that we're going to respect yours, so respect ours. And we say that as coaches, hey, training's for us and games are for you. But they need to recognize that, man, I appreciate your time here. So I'm gonna say it's 2.5 hours. And by the way, at 2.5 hours, we're going home. I'm not keeping you extra. I'm not keeping you longer just to do it, just out of spite. We come home from a road trip and maybe we lost a game, which hopefully we don't do a whole lot of that. I'm not taking you out on the field and running you till you're blue in the face. I'm just not going to do that. That's not going to get us closer. So I think it's recognition of time. I think when we do train, it is effort, it is focus, it is attitude. Inside those things, we expect your best. When you run hard from home to first, we expect you to do it every time. Those are unwavering expectations that we have. I guess I'll say this, Frank, we don't have one rule in our program. Like if you asked our kid, if one of our players jumped in right now and you said, hey, he's talking pretty good about your program, what are some of the rules you guys have? He'd go, we don't have any. We have expectations. Like championship teams perform at a championship level. So now that I've defined for them what a championship level work ethic looks like, when I've defined for you what championship level training looks like, when I define for you what a championship level meeting looks like, that's just the expectation that we have. It's easy. I mean, when our BP level, when I can feel our BP, we're losing some details and we're swinging and missing, and I don't feel like we're going where we're supposed to go in base running, Frank, I will stop practice, bring it up on me and go, now, wait a minute. Are we trying to finish fourth this year? Or are we trying to get over the hump? Because I'm not getting the effort right now that's going to get us over the hump. We need to be better. We need to be better. So, hey, I'm going to come back to coaching. I'm going to coach a snot out of you. You guys show up, get ready to learn. Here we go. Boom, we're back at it. If you go across all the different elements, Frank, so go to base running, for instance. Like, you need to be a gritty base runner because you need to fight for inches, a passionate persistence to find the next inch. That means if you can extend your lead from 12 feet to 13 feet, that's a big deal. When you run home to first and you break your steps and you look right and you look left, which, by the way, that's a fundamental of ours, look right for the overthrow, look left for the open base. If that base is open, our guys will literally leave that spot and sprint to second base. We run a base running play. I love talking about this. It's called a shoe call. So if you got a batter in the home plate and you got a runner at second base and the guy at the plate's in a 3-ball count, we start talking about shoe. Hey, shoe here, babe, shoot. Because what might happen is ball 4 could be a pass ball. And all we're going to do is find a way for that guy at second and that guy at home to trade places. That's pretty gritty. It's also relentless. It's also investing in success. It also has a little bit of energy behind it. We're going to trade places. And so what's going to happen is that pass ball on ball 4, our first base coach, shoo. And that guy at first base is sprinting. He clips the inside corner, and he just keeps running to second base. We're going to force the catcher to make a decision. Hey, that ball at home plate is 127, 3 3/8 inches away. Now at the backstop, it's another 60 feet. It's 187, 3 3/8 inches away. Go ahead and try to throw us out, sweetheart. So here's 187 feet in the air, and as he's doing it, we're just running and scoring. So again, I think it shows up in just about everything you do. Our approach on the mound, we're strike throwers. Coach Les, I love my pitching coach, our associate head coach. We finished this year a little over 3-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. And dude, everybody's fist pumping on that. Like, we had a great pitching staff. Can it be 5-to-1? I'm not being unrealistic, guys. All I'm saying is throw more strikes.
Now,
that's relentless.
How do the guys – so when you have that kind of expectation, do the guys ever feel like the expectations are unrealistic? Like, can we really get to 5-1, coach?
They told Roger Bannister you couldn't run a 4-minute mile until he did it. Hey, and then by the way, 18 days later, somebody else did it. Are you guys following that? Like, I mean, you can tell me to the blue in the face you can't do it. Well, I'm going to agree with you. You can't do it. I think what I've tried to help our guys understand is that I'm extremely realistic. I'm going to be more ambitious and insatiable. And I need you to kind of have that drive to, well, man, if I think that's my best, there's probably another layer. Because that's what we're trying to figure out. Like, what is the best version of us? I'm so grateful, and I don't say this to like prove a point. I'm saying this with true humility. Dude, I'm operating at 35%. I'm dead serious. Like, I look at myself and I go, and I'm my own worst critic, but it's like, dude, you could be better at this. You could be better at that. You need to be better at communication. You need to be better at reaching out to people. You need to be better at collecting your thoughts. You need to be better at reading books. I'm not a reader. You need to be better at commitment to learning. Dude, I'm operating at 35%. My job is to get to 100%. I'm going to challenge myself to go, man, there's another step. You got to get better. There's something else out there. Challenge yourself. Go. Find another. If I die tomorrow or I die in 80 years, like, where am I going to be? I'm going to be the best version of who I am. That's what we're trying to figure out for your guys.
There's going to be a question I'm going to ask in a second that came to me privately in the chat. But before I get to that question, I wanted to ask, how long did it take for the players to start, policing's the wrong word, but holding themselves accountable? How long did that take?
So that's a great question. That's team meeting number one. The goal is that at some point in the season, Frank, they will walk up to me in the middle of a game and they'll put their arm around me and they'll go, and I've said this 1,000 times, they'll go, Coach, hey, we got it. Oh, so I'll just make sure the vans are there. I'll make sure the umpires are paid and you guys have game balls. And then I'll just show up and get to watch you play. So you talk about that 3-year plan, Frank. I found a little bit of it this year. It's going to get even better this next year. But ultimately in 3 years, man, I get a front row seat to watch the best college baseball team in America play on a nightly basis.
Nice.
And that's where we're trying to get to. Those guys just run the show. It took them, I'll say it took them about 3 months. We had some moments early in the fall where guys showed up to the weight room in the wrong shorts. And then I walk in, and of course I see it and I'm like, well, those are the wrong shorts. And then I grab one of our seniors and I go, hey, take a look at him. Notice anything? Yes. He's got the wrong shorts on. Huh. And you let him lift? I was like, hey, that's on you. So now I'm going to make a scene out of you. You ready? Hey, stop the lift. Everybody come over. Hey, so I just want you guys to know that Frank's wearing the wrong shorts. Everybody see that? Frank's got the wrong shorts on. But I'm worried more about Dirk here because Dirk is a senior and Dirk's 22 and Dirk knows better. But Dirk didn't think it was that big of a deal to tell Frank, hey, man, we don't wear the wrong shorts here. So, hey, Dirk, we need you to be better. If we're trying to go where we're trying to go, dude, you got to lead. And as uncomfortable as it is to tell Frank he's wearing the wrong shorts, Frank's going to appreciate it. And you know what won't happen ever again? Frank won't wear the wrong shorts again. And so 3 months into it, I appreciate you, Will. Love you too, bub. About 3 months later, this is a true story. We had a player that slept in and missed weights on a Monday. On Friday, the strength coach dropped it in a conversation to me. He goes, yeah, it's been a much better week. Just didn't really start off the right way. Chase slept in. And I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah, Chase slept in. And I go, did you think you wanted to tell me that? He goes, well, the players took care of it. And I go, what happened? So I called in a few of our leaders and they said, Coach, he slept in, he showed up a couple minutes late, and we made him sit and watch us lift. And when we got done, we took him in the locker room, and Coach, we basically told him if it ever happens again, then we're kicking him off the team and we'll go up and explain to you as the coach what happened.
Nice.
And they've ran it ever since. And
That's
you
good.
empower those guys that you
Right,
trust
right.
that they'll always make the best decisions for the program. Yeah.
Nice. Let me ask. So I'm going to ask you a question that came up in the chat. It's a little bit off topic. It's more a general question about coaching. It's
Sure.
advice you have for coaches in Ontario who want to explore coaching opportunities in the U.S.
So start building a network. People will not hire you if they don't know you. That's key number one. And I don't mean like just aimlessly going out and connecting with people, but like really try to develop meaningful relationships. So that might mean DMs. That might mean trying to provoke an email conversation. That actually probably might mean getting on a plane and going down to the ABCA or other coaching clinics and finding ways to meet these people. No one hires someone they don't know. You just don't. You hire someone that you know somebody and they recommend that guy. That's just the way that business works, man. It's hardly ever the random pull from the pile. The other piece is this too, and this is more of an internal conversation, but what are you willing to sacrifice to do that? Because I think it's easy to want and wish, and if you keep wanting and wishing, generally those are things that never happen for you. You've got to figure out a way that I'm going to sacrifice to go make that a reality. To leave Canada and come to the States, sacrifice will be required. So you might leave your teaching job or your high-paying job, but if you want to break in, you might break in as the $1,000 assistant coach at a Division III school. And then everyone on the call that was thinking, I really want to do that went, well, I'm not going to make $1,000. Then you're not going to go coach in the States. Sacrifice is required.
Yeah, it's interesting because the ABCA newsletter came out today, and I always take a look at the coaching jobs just to look at them. And when you drill down on them, you realize that what a sacrifice and investment you have to make.
Yeah.
In order to get to a level you want to get to. And then the other thing that came out was in this COVID environment where a lot of volunteer coaches can't run camps, then that's a significant hit on their income. And so those are things we have to factor in about if you're willing to make this jump from your 9-to-5 job and then the volunteer coaching you're doing, and then you want to turn coaching into a career, understand that it might be a bit of a financial hit to start, but that's the investment and sacrifice you have to make along the way. Yeah.
And not to say you can't go down there and find a job that pays a little bit more than $1,000. Like, don't hear me on that. That's not like the going rate. But I will say this, we put out an ad on Twitter that we were going to hire a volunteer assistant coach. And I mean, true volunteer. I put in the description, no money, no stipend, no housing, no meal plan, on your own. And we had 50 applicants.
That's crazy.
And we hired 3 of them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Back on track with respect to environment and team culture and org behavior.
Sure.
I remember you talking about the dugout being a classroom. Can you help us understand how that helps to shape where you want to be?
So I think it's defining who you are and who you want to be. My players don't call me coach. They just call me Sheets. I don't consider myself a coach. I consider myself a teacher. And I evaluate myself as a teacher. Am I teaching the game the right way? Am I teaching the various elements? Where can I be better? We were 3rd in the country in stolen bases, Frank. And honestly, I can be better at teaching base running. I already know the key points that I missed this year, different strategies I can use to maybe drill home some points for our guys. I'm a teacher above all, and I encourage anybody on the call to think that way. Consider yourself that. So if you're a teacher, that means that everywhere you are, Frank, is a classroom. So when I'm in our, again, classroom, well, certainly I'm the teacher. I'm the professor. I'm the guy leading the discussion. I'm charged with what's happening on the PowerPoint. That's me. But I always take that the next step. I'm the teacher that's literally standing behind the turtle during BP. I'm the teacher that's out sitting on top of the base runners during batting practice. I'm the teacher when it's, again, our base running segment for 10 minutes. I'm teaching in that place. So I always think the classroom follows you around. The dugout is pretty much our default classroom. And so I'm just going to say this, and I want you to maybe think a little bit differently. Imagine if because you may not have a classroom, like we have a building that overlooks our field, that's our classrooms in there. You may not have that, but you have a dugout. And some of them are nice, some of them are not very good, some of them have chain link, some of them have netting, some of them have a roof, some of them don't. But the dugout is your one-stop shop. That's where your environment, quote unquote, culture begins. And so when our guys get into the classroom, and I'll bring it down to the dugout, we start every classroom right on time at 1:30, and Frank, we all do it in a synchronized clap. So we start classroom. I'm looking around. Guys know that I'm looking because I'm getting quiet, and I'm looking and I'm looking. Once I get everybody's eyes on me, they're waiting on my move. Here we go. As a group. And when we do it in sync, I know I've got their attention. We're locked in. We go for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes max. We end classroom on 2 claps and a Ric Flair.
I love it.
That's the environment we created. I want that energy. I like that flair, the Ric Flair. I like that flair. But man, that to me is a culture aspect. Well, that's in the classroom. We demand their attention. We demand their focus, and we're going to work at getting better as people and also baseball players. Well, the dugout's the same way. And so what I mean is, in the middle of a game, I don't coach third. I run the offense from the dugout. And I like to think of our offense as a conversation, Frank. So it's always ebbing and flowing. Like I've got players over my shoulder here at the bat rack, and I'm listening to what they're talking about, and I'm listening, and I may interject and say, I know he's given 6 inches off the plate, so here's what we need to do. Just make a box adjustment. Get up on the plate. Take away the inner half. That kid can't throw the inner half. So take away the inner half and make that outer half 6 inches off the plate. Make that a middle pitch. I'm conversing like right here. And then I'm like, okay, we're ready? All right, here we go. Hey, green lights. We're good. We're good. If a moment happens in the game, I step down off the step and I go, offense. Hey, just want to make sure we're on the same page here. That moment is going to happen again. He does not want to pick. And if you find yourself at first base, get an exaggerated lead. All he's done is step off. If he won't pick, we'll be able to steal from 18 feet. And until he picks us off, let's embarrass him. Good? Here we go. Green lights, guys. Here we go. It's a conversation. I'm teaching the whole time going, I wanted you to see this. Are you recognizing this? Let's make sure we take advantage of it. Well, it's the same way post-game. So I challenge you, when you get done with the game and you guys go down like the left field line, man, don't do that to yourself as a coach. And this is maybe a personal preference, but this is what I think. You go down the left field line, guys, you can't control volume down there. Like if you have a concrete wall, every parent in the stands heard everything you said. But they also get to watch you, and you get in your expressions and your body language and your hand movements. And they also watch the ring of players around you, and they watch how the guy in the back is chasing butterflies. And he's like, and you're up there thinking you're delivering some woozer of a post-game speech. For us, it's the dugout. The dugout's our classroom. We always on the field come back to the dugout. We finish every game and again, this is just like Coach Corbin, man, so I bit it straight from him. But I sit up on the back, or I stand in the dugout. I put my back to the back of the wall, and I make every player come away from the rails and down into our dugout so that I can see all their eyes. So imagine that as a leader, you have every one of your organization's eyes on one person. So there's nobody behind me. It's not like I have an assistant coach back there checking his phone or like hollering at his wife. There's no distraction. Your eyes are right here. And then I teach. I try to make sure, and Frank, I had a couple of players say this to me about 3 or 4 games before the quarantine hit. And he said, Coach, when you get going, I forget what the score was. Because it ain't about the win or the loss. It's about teaching. You have to teach what happened, how we'll get better, how we're going to move forward. Again, guys, it's about building this team. And we're going to keep working as individuals to do our responsibility to keep building this team the right way. We have so much more room to grow. Let's keep moving in the right direction, man. Love you guys. Get out of here. Take care of each other. 3, in your dugout. No one saw it. It's us. It's our trust tree. We call it everything we do is a trust tree. When we have a conversation, it's a trust tree. I get to say what I want. You get to say what you want, and no one takes offense.
There's a question I'm going to get to in the chat, but
Sure.
you mentioned something about your assistant coaches, and it just led me to another question. How do you as a coach get your assistant coaches engaged and on the same page as you?
A lot of communication. I think it's another layer of communication. It's crystal clear communication. So I spent a lot of time detailing for them what my expectations are for them. And I think in any way that you can, empower your assistant coaches. Like, you talk about them having a vested interest in success, they need to feel like they're part of it. It's not just they're on for your ride and they get to like have a front row seat to what you're doing. I've coached that way, but I think it's more about empowering them that they're part of the solution here. And that starts with making sure that you listen, making sure that you ask better questions. So you get them thinking, you get them talking, you get them sharing. Don't accept, I don't know. Don't accept, do whatever you want. I push back on my guys. Nope, I asked you for a reason. I need to know where you're at on this. And I'm listening, and generally I move with their ideas. Like, because there's certain things that your assistant thinks is like the most important thing on earth. And you as a head coach go, it's fine. Yeah, let's do that, man. I like that. It's a good idea. We'll do that. Perfect. Let's go I'll get it done today. Just so he feels like, yeah, he's listening. Yeah, absolutely. Now, big, tough decisions, I'm still going to hear you, but ultimately that's going to come on me. But trying to do that, but crystal clear communication is everything. And they can't leave a conversation, Frank, and then walk away and go, now, did he mean? Because then you didn't explain it the right way. Well, it's the same way when they get in front of the players. We've got to communicate in a crystal clear way, but it's empowerment, and it comes back to being just a very direct, no gray area when you talk with your assistant coaches.
Now, were they held over from the previous head coach?
They both were, yes.
Okay, so how did that go in terms of when you came in? How did you introduce what you wanted to do?
So I was terrified. I knew them both, but I didn't know them. And that was part of the gig. Hey, you can be the head coach, but you're going to keep these assistant coaches. Well, the good thing is they've been around for a lot of wins. They both have been there since the program started. So they had 7 years of wins. They also had 7 years of perspective. And again, this is where the podcast comes into play. I asked them a lot of questions, and they were like, holy smokes, man. But I think that's what we've talked about now, is they appreciated that. It wasn't, hey, sit down, get your notepads out. Let me explain to you what's getting ready to happen. Right. I spent the first probably 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks asking question after question after question. Hey, how'd you guys handle this? Hey, when you guys went to this, how'd that work? So almost to a point where I kept asking these questions that almost, Frank, I knew the answer was we didn't do it. But I would ask it so that they would go, Sheet, you know the answer. We've never done that. And I'm like, okay, I just needed to make sure. I didn't want to like jump out and think, So I remember I did that for the first few weeks, and I kept building up towards this moment where we were all going to sit at a dinner table and eat dinner together, and we were going to take a coaches meeting, spend 3 or 4 hours together, and that I was going to lay out for them kind of what some of the maybe the most critical points were. And I'll tell you what, I had their attention because I asked questions early. I didn't come in dictating. I came in and said, teach me, and then let me digest it, and then let me just tell you, maybe a little bit more insight into where I'm going with that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, everyone feels better when they're able to contribute to a solution.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you a question from a chat. And I think this is a great question because we hear the word, but we really don't know how it's done. And that is, talk about what you guys do for meditation in practice.
So we do it every single day. I think it's extremely important. I could probably go for another hour and a half on this one, but I won't. It's extremely important. I think in a time where during this quarantine, there is more suicide around the world than we've ever seen. When 6 million people have lost jobs, when players just had their baseball season ripped from them, and that's never happened to them in their lives. I think there's more anxiety, there's more depression, there's more uncertainty and they don't know how to deal with it. And I'm 39 and I don't know how to deal with it. So I think we've got to think about, in the grand scheme of things, if they're going to be the best version of themselves, then in the game, when adversity hits, Frank, they need to have a system that allows them to get back. So what I mean by that is trying to get back to center. I mentioned this earlier. Center is a place of calm, is a place of confidence, and it's a place of clarity. When something bad happens, like umpire raises his right arm, it's a bad call, 6 inches outside. That takes them to here. Okay? When that right arm raises, let me back up. When the pitcher has the baseball and he goes in his motion and he's, again, in his delivery, and here comes his arm and there's the baseball, and the hitter has less than half a second to make a decision in rhythm and take. Ball outside, umpire says strike. Ha. The minute that it is ha, until the pitcher, back in his windup, starts his move to bring his arm through, that 15 to 20 seconds is where the mental game lives. And you know it, and we know it, and your players know it, but sometimes you got to educate your players. They're having a conversation during those 15 seconds. And sometimes it's, are you kidding me right now? I cannot believe that pitch is way outside. Are you kidding? This is a joke. Where do they find you guys at? This is unbelievable. Oh, hit and run? Man, gosh, I cannot believe you're taking this at bat away from me. By the way, it's only 0-1. And here's the guy back in the motion bringing the pitch. That's happening. And so we want them to go to a place of, ha, oh, man, that pitch is outside. Oh, shoot. Oh, okay. Let's move on. Coach, hit and run. Okay, what do I got to do on a hit and run? Got to put the ball in play. If I can get to the right side, it's even better. Got to protect this guy. Here we go. Wouldn't you want that? Is that the best version of them? Will that be the better hitter in the box in the moment with the hit and run call? And so the meditation, we do it every single day right after classroom. It's 10 to 15 minutes. If you want to talk more about it, shoot me a DM. I'll go into it with you. But we spend time helping them learn how to visualize, because, by the way, when they visualize, they won't be very good at it the first time. They'll probably see themselves fail. You know why? Because fear is out there. They'll have a hard time seeing themselves with their imagination throw a strike after strike after strike. They're going to see themselves hit a guy, because you know what? On the mound, they're fearful of hitting a guy, and it shows up in visualization. They got to spend time, I think, as coaches, giving them positive affirmations, Frank. Like, we've got to, on their subconscious level, take care of them. Dude, you are confident. You are the best player on the field. You do want the ball hit to you in big moments. We also spend time in silence, because, by the way, the silence, it's where you guys live right now. So while I'm talking, you guys are silent. Well, you're still having a conversation. And some of you, if you just put yourself in that moment, have that awareness for a second, you're going, come on, Sheets, keep going, man. This is really good. Oh, my gosh, man. Yeah, you're killing it right now. Some of you are going, dude, I shouldn't have got on this webinar, man. I got better stuff I should be doing. I think the voice is on tonight. And some of you are going, did I take the laundry out of the dryer, or is it still in there? I can't remember right now. You're having a conversation. And so you're trying to help them realize that that conversation's always happening. The key is to keep thoughts neutral, so that, again, when we go to here, we have a system with a breath that gets them back to the present, gets them back to center, calm, confident, clarity. When we have a big moment, we stroke a double in the gap, we strike out a guy, we win a game. Everybody wants to live here. You can't live here. You can stay here for a minute, but you got to live here. And so the breath brings us back. You can't control the past. The past has happened. We don't control the future. The future is out there. We control this moment, this breath, this word, this conversation, this answer. This is the one I control. Frank, I could have been better about an hour and 20 minutes ago, but I can't control it. It happened. It's past. And I can tell you that the next question you ask, I'm going to crush, but I can't control it. I can only control this answer right now. That's mental game. In short, that's mental game.
So can you paint a picture for us of what that meditation looks like, that 10 to 15 minutes you guys would do?
Yeah. So it's a great question. So we do a mix of, if you have a pen or anything, look up Dr. Ken Ravizza, Ravizza. Ken is the godfather of the mental game, the late great Ken Ravizza. He had his mental game prep, Frank, and I liked it, is really rooted in relaxation. And think about your kids. Think about for the first time that day when they show up, maybe the first time they've relaxed and their shoulders have been tense and they've had stress on their mind and maybe they don't have enough money in their checking account and they have 2 tests and they got to write a paper tonight and whatever that is, they have stress. And so part of his buildup is relaxation. So where we start, we lay down flat on our back. You want to be on your back because that's going to give you a chance to let your stomach rise and fall. And so you got to teach players how to breathe. And I know that sounds like, yeah, I know how to breathe. I'm still living. But we do it too. We take shallow breaths. And when we do that, we only breathe through our chest. Well, that's not diaphragm breathing, and that's not healing breath. Healing breath comes from the bottom of your stomach. And so we have our guys lay on their back and we teach them this by putting their hands on their stomach. And they're literally feeling the rise and fall of their stomach with every breath in and every breath out. Once they're past that, we just start on our back, eyes closed, and then we start working on, we talk about when we lay down on grass or we lay down on turf in our cages. My job as the guide is to help them melt through the turf and then try to take them as deep as I can take them. Because the deeper you take them, the more vulnerable they are. That's a good thing. Because it's the calmer that they are. They're slowing down. They're getting out of, again, thoughts at times. What they give them emotion, if we don't keep them neutral, if they have emotion to them, thoughts elevate heart rate. And if you elevate heart rate, you can't think clearly. If you can't think clearly and you got elevated heart rate, you can't breathe correctly. So we help them slow down. So we do some relaxation techniques, and then we get into like breathing techniques. So again, we do collective breaths, and we have the same mantra every time. Big deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose, so they can hear me at any point in the meditation, and I go to that. They know that's me, but they know that's what we say. I like the consistency of it.
So you guide them through the meditation
The entire time.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I'll come back to that. So like you work them through it, and I'm breathing, we're breathing, I'm helping them sink. And then again, we either go through roughly 8 to 10 minutes of visualization, or 8 to 10 minutes of positive affirmation, or 8 to 10 minutes of battling silence. And we come out of that, guys, as the guide, you have to gradually bring them out. And I mean, like, if this is where they started, guys, they're here. Like, they don't know where they're at. Like, so my point is, as the guide, Frank, I'm their protector. If you talk about trust. So I'm going to lay down, I'm going to close my eyes, and I'm going to hope that you're not going to let anything happen to me. And I trust you so much that I'm just going to allow myself to melt away and almost forget where I'm at. Now, what I mean by that is, like, when we do it in our cages, sometimes I can see the softball girls walking over to our cage, and they know when I put my hand up, do not come any further. I'm sorry, we're meditating. I can't have you come over and then rustle a bucket of balls and scare one of my guys. Our coaches know that if they've got to get the gator through, they better go the long way. Because you can't come up beside a bunch of dudes that are in meditation and rev the engine of a gator. It's going to scare them to death.
Right.
So my job is to protect them. And through that, you have to help slowly bring them out of that meditation to where, again, when you're done and you're doing that through breathing, you're doing that through feeling their body. Like, there's a really cool exercise. If you're in your chair right now and I had you lay back, I don't want to take you through guided meditation because now that'd be way too much. But like, if you sat back in your chair and you started to feel what parts of your body are touching the chair, like, you're going to get in tune with your hamstrings, your butt, your low back, your elbows, your wrists, your hands. Well, now start to pay attention to what parts of your body aren't touching the chair. So now it's your feet, your calves, your neck. Like, you're going to be in tune with your body. Well, if you're in tune with your body, part of meditation is letting go. And so there's a point in the meditation when we're laying down on turf or we're doing it in our classroom in our chairs, I need them to let go. Let go is obviously signifies let go of all of it. Let go of the past. let go of stress, let go of thoughts of the future, let go of doubt, let go of fear. More importantly, let go of the responsibility to hold up your body. Let the turf hold you up. Let the chair hold you up. And you just watch guys go. And now I got them. And then we just work our way through relaxation, through breathing, through, again, visualization, through affirmations, or through battling silence.
Clarity and getting back to center. Well,
So
it's 9:30, Coach. And you said we'd crush it.
that was the goal.
And we have crushed it. Dirk's about to get back on here. I wanted to thank you. This was a lot of fun. I'm very much, I'm very much, I was a captain when I played, so I'd go through a wall for a team, and
Sure.
kind of how I coach. So to hear you speak elevates me, and I appreciate you taking the time for me tonight.
Frank, I'm going to tell you, man, from the minute I've met you, I am inspired by your passion, man. I really am. You're a guy, when I see you, I smile, but you're a guy I like spending time with. And obviously, Dirk, I appreciate you even thinking of me to do this. And I love Sharon. I love, again, I say this, man, I love each of you. I do. Brothers and sisters in baseball and softball, I appreciate who you are and what you're doing. And Frank, obviously, man, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate that. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys. Gritty, relentless, invested, zeal, unbridled energy, and of course, love. I think that all has an equal sign next to it on the other side, on the right-hand side. It equates Coach Sheets. Sheets, know you have a lot of people in the baseball community on both the softball and baseball side who ask of your time, and you always give it extremely willingly. So we are extremely indebted to you here at Baseball Ontario, and for all the coaches from across North America who are on here tonight. We thank you for giving us this time and this evening and helping us. It doesn't matter if you call it culture, philosophy, environment, it all equates to one thing, better people, better coaching, and like you said, getting people prepared for life. So on behalf of Baseball Ontario, Coach Sheets, thank you very, very much.
Appreciate it, Dirk.
Just a reminder to everybody, next Wednesday, May 20th, Matt Tallarico, base running coordinator for the New York Yankees, will be here to talk about base running. And if you want to hear about base running, you got to hear it from Matt. If you heard him at the Best Ever Clinic this year, you know what I'm talking about. And if you didn't, well, come join us. You are in for another evening of great baseball wisdom, especially as it comes to base running. On behalf of Baseball Ontario, your host, Frank Fascia, and our special guest, Coach Sheets, this is Dirk Drieberg reminding you to stay safe and wishing you a good night.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Thanks, Sheets.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. That was awesome. It was a lot of fun.
Go grab some time with your family, Sheets. I'm sure you don't get enough of that with them, especially if you're starting again at 7:30 in the morning tomorrow with your team.
Yeah. We'll get back and rocking and rolling, man.
Okay, Sheets.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Dirk. Thanks again. And again, if I put my stuff in there, if they want to reach out, please have them do it.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. We'll be in touch.
All right. See you guys. Have a great one.
Yep. Good night.